Remember words by reading essays. The Forgotten Amusement Park.
Good morning.
Today,
We are going to study the article The Forgotten Amusement Park. Please listen carefully as I play the full text once, so you can get a general understanding of the story and its atmosphere.
In a far-flung countryside stood a decrepit amusement park, once filled with laughter, but now derelict. Its rides nothing more than clunkers rusting away. The walls were cracked, the statues moldering, and the Ferris wheel swayed in an undulating rhythm. Whenever the wind passed through, a group of university students came here for research. One boy, with an emollient personality, tried to comfort his friends, whose hearts began to flutter with unease. The mean age of the group was only 20, but their courage was tested as they walked among the ruins. Inside the old arcade, they found notebooks left behind by a former owner who had gone bust years ago. His dreams had been ravaged by debt, and government flack had forced him to jettison expansion plans. Eventually, every effort simply fizzled out, leaving only these records. The group gathered to dissect the history. They discovered how corruption had been rife in the town, how leaders' nannyish policies tried to oblige residents to pay high fees, and how one scandal was scuppered, only because evidence was plopped on a desk at the last minute. The students felt their expectations dashed, realizing the family-friendly park was nothing more than quackery, filled with lopsided deals and underwhelming, bland attractions. Yet not all was gloomy. A girl, though slightly chunky, had a pet hobby of restoring art. She began to groom younger volunteers, teaching them to repaint broken walls. Others removed weeds, though they occasionally had to lob bricks into piles. Slowly, a new community started to forge bonds, refusing to let the site crumble further. One evening, while cleaning, they saw smoke rise, not from a volcano belching out lava, but from nearby farmers burning straw. For a second they felt like they would reel from fear, but then laughed at their mistake. Still, challenges remained. Funds were scarce, and sometimes they got lumbered with more tasks than they could manage. When donations failed, they almost gave up. "It is odd to chase such a hopeless project," someone muttered tetchily. But the emollient leader calmed them, reminding them that virtue, like a velvet glove, might exact a toll, but was intrinsic to meaningful change. Though progress was slow, and though many rides would remain run-of-the-mill or forever unsafe, the group refused to let the dream boil over into despair. What had once been a site of disappointment was reborn, not spectacular, not grand, but alive again.
now,
Let's listen to the passage again. This time, I will pause along the way to explain some key vocabulary and phrases, helping you better understand how they are used in context.
In a far-flung countryside stood a decrepit amusement park.
In the story, the amusement park is described as decrepit. This means it is old, worn out, and in very bad condition, often from long neglect. It suggests broken structures, rust.
and decay.
Is decrepit only used for buildings?
Not at all. It can also describe people or objects that are extremely old and weak. But here it clearly refers to the ruined state of the park.
Is it stronger than just saying old?
Yes, much stronger. Old is neutral, but decrepit emphasizes serious damage and deterioration.
Once filled with laughter, but now derelict.
In the passage, the amusement park is called derelict. This means it has been abandoned and left to fall into ruin, with no one taking care of it anymore.
Does derelict only mean empty?
Not exactly. It means more than empty. It suggests neglect, as if people left and never returned to maintain the place.
Can it describe things other than buildings?
Yes, it can describe anything neglected or deserted. but it's most commonly used for places like houses, ships, or parks.
Its rides nothing more than clunkers rusting away.
In the text, the rides are described as clunkers. This refers to machines that are old, noisy, and barely working, often making clunking sounds when they move. It suggests they're unreliable and in poor condition.
Does clunkers always relate to machines?
Mostly,
Yes.
it's commonly used for things like cars or mechanical equipment that don't function well anymore.
Is it about the sound or the condition?
Both.
The word comes from the dull, heavy noise, but it also implies the item is worn out and not working properly.
The walls were cracked, the statues moldering.
In the story, the statues are described as moldering. This means they are slowly decaying, often covered with mold due to dampness and long neglect. It creates an image of gradual breakdown over time.
Does moldering always involve mold?
Usually,
Yes.
it often suggests decay caused by moisture, though it can also mean general slow deterioration.
Is it a quick process or a slow one?
It's definitely slow. Moldering emphasizes a gradual, almost unnoticed decay happening over a long period.
And the Ferris wheel swayed in an undulating rhythm whenever the wind passed through.
In the passage, the Ferris wheel moves in an undulating rhythm. Undulating means moving in a smooth, wave-like pattern, rising and falling gently rather than staying still.
Is undulating only used for movement?
Mostly,
Yes.
it often describes motion like waves, hills, or anything that has a flowing up and down shape or pattern.
Does it mean fast or slow movement?
It usually suggests a slow, gentle motion, not something sudden or sharp.
A group of university students came here for research. One boy, with an emollient personality, tried to comfort his friends.
In the story, the boy has an emollient personality. This means he is soothing and calming, able to ease others' worries and make people feel more relaxed.
Does emollient mean he's always gentle?
Yes, it suggests a naturally calming and reassuring manner, especially in tense situations.
Can emollient describe things, not just people?
Absolutely. It can also describe actions or words that soften or reduce tension, not only a person's character.
Whose hearts began to flutter with unease.
In the text, their hearts begin to flutter. Here, flutter means to beat quickly and lightly, often because of fear, excitement, or nervousness.
Is flutter only used for hearts?
Not only, it can also describe things like wings or leaves moving quickly and lightly in the air.
Does it mean a strong or weak feeling?
It usually suggests a light but noticeable feeling. Not very strong, but enough to show emotion.
The mean age of the group was only 20, but their courage was tested as they walked among the ruins. Inside the old arcade, they found notebooks left behind by a former owner who had gone bust years ago.
In the passage, the former owner had gone bust. This means his business failed completely and he ran out of money, often leading to closure.
Does gone bust only apply to businesses?
Mostly,
Yes.
it's commonly used when a company or financial venture collapses due to debt or lack of income.
Is it sudden or gradual?
It can be either. but it usually suggests a final point where the business can no longer continue.
His dreams have been ravaged by debt.
In the text, the owner's dreams were ravaged by debt. Ravaged means severely damaged or destroyed, often in a way that leaves little hope of recovery.
Is ravaged only used for physical damage?
No.
It can describe emotional or abstract damage too, like dreams, hopes, or plans being badly affected.
Does it mean total destruction?
Not always total, but it suggests very serious harm, almost to the point of being beyond repair.
And government flack had forced him.
In the passage, the owner faced flack from the government. Flack means strong criticism or opposition directed at someone, often publicly.
Is flack only about the government?
No.
Anyone can give flack, bosses, friends, or the media. It just means harsh criticism or pushback.
Is it physical or just verbal?
In this context, it's entirely verbal or figurative criticisms, complaints, or disapproval.
To jettison expansion plans.
In the text, the owner had to jettison his expansion plans. Jettison means to deliberately get rid of something, often to relieve a burden or solve a problem.
Can jettison be used for both objects and ideas?
Yes, it can apply to physical items, projects, plans, or even habits, anything intentionally discarded.
Is it done suddenly or can it be gradual?
Usually it implies a deliberate, sometimes sudden action, not something lost by accident.
Eventually, every effort simply fizzled out, leaving only these records.
In the story, the owner's efforts eventually fizzled out. Fizzle out means to gradually fail, weaken, or stop, often after starting with energy or promise.
Is it used only for plans or can it describe events too?
It can describe both. Any project, event, or effort that loses momentum and ends quietly can fizzle out.
Does it suggest a sudden failure?
No.
It's gradual. It starts strong but slowly fades until it ends without much impact.
The group gathered to dissect the history.
In the text, the students dissected the history of the park. Dissect means to carefully examine or analyze something in detail to understand it better.
Can dissect be used for things other than history?
Yes. It can apply to any subject, like ideas, problems, or texts where you break it down to study it closely.
Does it mean physically cutting something?
Sometimes, like in biology. But here it's figurative. It means analyzing or studying something thoroughly.
They discovered how corruption had been rife in the town.
In the story, corruption in the town is described as rife. Rife means very common or widespread, often with a negative connotation.
Can rife be used for positive things too?
It's usually used for problems or bad situations, like rumors, disease, or corruption, not for positive things.
Does it mean everywhere or just in some places?
It suggests something is widespread and happens frequently, affecting many people or areas.
How leaders nannyish policies.
In the text, the town leader's policies are described as nannyish. Nannyish means overly protective or controlling, like someone trying to micromanage others.
Is it always negative?
Usually,
Yes.
it implies being too controlling or interfering, even if the intention is to help.
Can it apply to people? Not just rules.
Absolutely. It can describe any person or behavior that is excessively cautious, protective, or bossy.
Tried to oblige residents to pay high fees.
In the story, the leaders tried to oblige residents to pay high fees. Oblige means to require or compel someone to do something, often by law, rule, or authority.
Can oblige also mean helping someone?
Yes, it has another sense of doing a favor, but here it's about forcing or requiring action.
Is it always formal or strict?
Not always, but in this context, it suggests a strong expectation or pressure to comply.
And how one scandal was scuppered.
In the text, one scandal was scuppered. Scupper means to ruin
Spoil.
or prevent something from succeeding.
Can scupper be used for plans or events too?
Yes, it can apply to any plan
Project.
or attempt that is unexpectedly ruined or stopped.
Does it mean completely failed or just partly?
Usually it means completely or seriously ruined, so the effort cannot succeed as intended.
Only because evidence was plopped on a desk at the last minute.
In the story, evidence was plopped on a desk. Plop means to drop something suddenly and often carelessly, usually with a soft sound.
Is plopped only used for physical objects?
Mostly,
Yes.
it describes something being dropped or set down abruptly. But it can also be used figuratively for ideas or information.
Does it suggest intention or accident?
Usually it suggests a casual or careless action, not necessarily by accident, just without much care.
The students felt their expectations dashed.
In the passage, the students' expectations were dashed. Here, dash means to destroy or ruin hopes, plans, or feelings suddenly.
Can dashed be used for physical things too?
Yes. Literally, it can mean smashed or broken. But in this story, it's figurative. About disappointment.
Is it sudden or gradual?
It usually suggests a sudden impact, something that quickly ruins hopes or expectations.
Realizing the family-friendly park was nothing more than quackery.
In the text, the park is described as full of quackery. Quackery means deceitful or fraudulent practices, often pretending to be genuine or effective, but really worthless.
Is it only used for medicine?
Originally,
Yes.
it referred to fake doctors or remedies, but now it can describe any scheme
Product.
or activity that's fraudulent or misleading.
Does it mean harmful or just fake?
Usually both. It's fake and often disappointing or potentially harmful because it promises more than it delivers.
Filled with lopsided deals.
In the story, some of the deals and attractions are described as lopsided. Lopsided means uneven, unbalanced, or unfair, where one side has more advantage than the other.
Can lopsided describe objects too?
Yes, it can describe anything physical, like a table or a cake, that tilts or is uneven, as well as situations or deals.
Does it always mean unfairness?
Not always. Physically. It's just uneven. Figuratively. It often implies imbalance or unfairness between two sides.
And underwhelming, bland attractions.
In the text, the attractions are called underwhelming and bland. Underwhelming means disappointing or not as impressive as expected, while bland means dull,
Plain.
or lacking excitement or flavor.
Can underwhelming be used for anything?
Yes, it can describe experiences, performances, or objects that fail to meet expectations.
And bland isn't just about food. Right.
Correct.
It can describe anything uninteresting or boring, like a speech
Design.
or atmosphere.
Yet not all was gloomy. A girl, though slightly chunky,
In the story, the girl is described as chunky. Chunky means having a slightly plump or solid build, usually in a friendly or neutral way.
Is chunky considered rude?
Not necessarily. It's often a casual, descriptive term rather than an insult, though tone matters.
Can it be used for things? Not just people.
Yes, it can describe objects too, like chunky soup, jewelry, or clothing with a thick, solid appearance.
had a pet hobby of restoring art.
In the story, the girl has a pet hobby of restoring art. Here, pet means something that is especially loved, cherished, or given special attention.
So it doesn't mean an animal in this case.
Exactly. It can describe any favorite activity
Project.
or interest that someone cares deeply about.
Can a pet hobby change over time?
Yes,
It can.
pet just highlights what someone currently favors or nurtures most.
She began to groom younger volunteers, teaching them to repaint broken walls.
In the text, the girl groomed younger volunteers. Here, groom means to train
Guide.
or prepare someone for a particular role or skill.
Can groom be used for animals too?
Yes. Literally, it means cleaning or taking care of animals. But here it's figurative, helping people develop skills.
Is it only for beginners?
Usually,
Yes.
it implies mentoring or preparing someone who is learning or just starting out.
Others removed weeds, though they occasionally had to lob bricks into piles.
In the story, the students sometimes had to lob bricks into piles. Lob means to throw something in a high arc, usually gently or with some effort.
Is lob used for heavy objects too?
Yes, but usually lighter objects are easier. It emphasizes the curved, rather than straight, motion of the throw.
Can it be used figuratively?
Definitely. You can lob questions or comments at someone, meaning to direct them toward them, often casually or repeatedly.
Slowly, a new community started to forge bonds.
In the passage, a new community began to forge bonds. Forge means to create or develop something strong and lasting, often through effort or work.
Can forge be used for things other than relationships?
Yes, it can describe making agreements,
Paths.
reputations, or even metalwork. It always suggests effort to shape or build.
Does it happen quickly or over time?
Usually over time. because strong bonds or achievements take consistent effort to form.
Refusing to let the site crumble further.
In the story, the students refuse to let the site crumble. Crumble means to break or fall apart, either physically or figuratively, often slowly over time.
Can crumble describe feelings or plans too?
Yes. Figuratively, it can describe hopes, confidence, or systems that weaken or collapse.
Does it happen suddenly or gradually?
Usually gradually, like structures or situations slowly falling apart rather than instantly collapsing.
One evening, while cleaning, they saw smoke rise, not from a volcano belching out lava, but from nearby farmers burning straw.
In the text, smoke is described as belching out. Belch out means to release something forcefully, often suddenly, like smoke, fire, or gas.
Can it be used for things other than smoke?
Yes, it can describe liquids,
gas,
or even figurative things like loud words or complaints being forcefully released.
Does it sound negative?
Often,
yes,
it usually suggests something messy
strong,
or uncontrolled coming out.
For a second, they felt like they would reel from fear, but then laughed at their mistake.
In the passage, they felt like they would reel from fear. Reel means to stagger
sway,
or feel disoriented, often from shock
surprise,
or dizziness.
Can reel be used physically and emotionally?
Yes, you can reel from a punch, a fall, or even shocking news. It applies to both body and mind.
Is it sudden or gradual?
Usually sudden, as it describes an immediate reaction that makes you feel unsteady or overwhelmed.
Still, challenges remained. Funds were scarce, and sometimes they got lumbered with more tasks than they could manage.
In the story, the students got lumbered with more tasks than they could manage. This phrase means to be burdened with something unwanted or difficult.
Is it always about work or tasks?
Mostly,
yes,
it often refers to chores, responsibilities, or problems that someone has to deal with, usually reluctantly.
Does it happen by choice?
no,
Got lumbered with implies it was imposed on them, not something they chose to take on.
When donations failed, they almost gave up. It is odd to chase such a hopeless project, someone muttered tetchily.
In the passage, someone muttered tetchily. Tetchily means speaking in an irritable, easily annoyed, or impatient way.
Is it the same as being angry?
Not exactly. It's more like being short-tempered or fussy, not fully angry.
Can it describe writing or just speech?
It can describe both. Any tone, spoken or written, that shows irritation or impatience can be called tetchy or tetchily.
But the emollient leader calmed them, reminding them that virtue, like a velvet glove, might exact a toll.
In the story, virtue is said to exact a toll. Exact a toll means to demand a cost, effort, or consequence from someone, often as a price for their actions.
Is it always negative?
Usually it implies a challenge or burden, like hard work or sacrifice. Not always bad, but something you must pay or endure.
Can it be physical or emotional?
Yes, it can refer to physical strain, emotional stress, or even financial costs, any kind of price someone has to pay.
But was intrinsic to meaningful change.
In the passage, virtue is described as intrinsic to meaningful change. Intrinsic means something that is naturally part of something else, essential or inherent.
Can intrinsic be used for people too?
Yes. It can describe qualities or values that are naturally part of a person,
Object.
or action.
Is it the same as important?
Not exactly. Intrinsic means it belongs naturally. Not just that it's important, it's an essential, built-in part.
Though progress was slow, and though many rides will remain run-of-the-mill or forever unsafe,
In the story, some rides are called run-of-the-mill. This means ordinary, average, or not special, nothing remarkable or exciting.
Can it describe things other than rides?
Yes, it can describe people, events, products, or anything that is typical and unremarkable.
Does it sound negative?
Not strongly.
But it suggests something is plain or unimpressive, lacking uniqueness or distinction.
the group refused to let the dream boil over into despair.
In the passage, the dream could boil over into despair. Boil over into means to grow or escalate until it turns into something more serious or intense.
Can it be used for emotions only?
No.
It can describe events, conflicts, or situations that escalate, not just feelings.
Does it happen quickly or slowly?
Usually gradually, like pressure or tension building until it suddenly transforms into a bigger problem.
What had once been a sight of disappointment was reborn, not spectacular, not grand, but alive again.
Next, we will listen to the entire text one more time. Try to follow along and notice how the words and expressions we discussed fit naturally into the story.
In a far-flung countryside stood a decrepit amusement park, once filled with laughter, but now derelict. Its rides nothing more than clunkers rusting away. The walls were cracked, the statues moldering, and the Ferris wheel swayed in an undulating rhythm. Whenever the wind passed through, a group of university students came here for research. One boy, with an emollient personality, tried to comfort his friends, whose hearts began to flutter with unease. The mean age of the group was only 20, but their courage was tested as they walked among the ruins. Inside the old arcade, they found notebooks left behind by a former owner who had gone bust years ago. His dreams had been ravaged by debt, and government flack had forced him to jettison expansion plans. Eventually, every effort simply fizzled out, leaving only these records. The group gathered to dissect the history. They discovered how corruption had been rife in the town, how leaders' nannyish policies tried to oblige residents to pay high fees, and how one scandal was scuppered, only because evidence was plopped on a desk at the last minute. The students felt their expectations dashed, realizing the family-friendly park was nothing more than quackery, filled with lopsided deals and underwhelming, bland attractions. Yet not all was gloomy. A girl, though slightly chunky, had a pet hobby of restoring art. She began to groom younger volunteers, teaching them to repaint broken walls. Others removed weeds, though they occasionally had to lob bricks into piles. Slowly, a new community started to forge bonds, refusing to let the site crumble further. One evening, while cleaning, they saw smoke rise, not from a volcano belching out lava, but from nearby farmers burning straw. For a second they felt like they would reel from fear, but then laughed at their mistake. Still, challenges remained. Funds were scarce, and sometimes they got lumbered with more tasks than they could manage. When donations failed, they almost gave up. It is odd to chase such a hopeless project, someone muttered tetchily. But the emollient leader calmed them, reminding them that virtue, like a velvet glove, might exact a toll, but was intrinsic to meaningful change. Though progress was slow, and though many rides will remain run-of-the-mill or forever unsafe, the group refused to let the dream boil over into despair. What had once been a sight of disappointment was reborn, not spectacular, not grand, but alive again.
That brings us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you for your attention. And I hope you found the session helpful.
See you next time.